Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub here today with Pastor Jim from Bergstrasse. How are you, Pastor Jim?
Pretty good. It's a good summer day today. And
Yeah, it's okay.
and
I'm gonna
where I
announce.
am, it's only 71 degrees.
No, don't talk about it because I don't want to jinx it.
I know, but
Summer's not my favorite. I know that that's an unpopular opinion, but I'm ready for cooler weather.
I'm ready for fall.
Oh yes, and then winter.
Ugh.
Oh, that's hilarious. So once
I can,
again, I know. Once again, Pastor Jim and I were chatting about all the things before we do this together, and I think that one of the things that we've sort of landed on is that it's sort of a lifelong thing that has been happening. In order to be successful, you have to do a lot, and I think that women feel that pressure. I know that nonprofits feel that pressure, and
church, churches feel that pressure.
and the churches feel that pressure too. And I think that we wanted to explore that a little bit about what does that mean and what is that okay? Is that not okay? And sort of all that stuff. So I think about it in terms of, I used to teach high school, and schools were and have been and probably will for a long time. More and more things kept being added onto school. So school was a place in the day where you literally went for reading, writing, and arithmetic. And that was the point. And then along the way, schools added more things. So you had PE because there were like requirements that everybody had to be healthy. So school was the place where everyone went, so they added gym class. And then if you didn't know some skills, like if you weren't good at cooking because your parent didn't do that, then they added home ec back in the day, and you could learn cooking and sewing and all those sort of life skills. And then there was like sex education, and then that got added because people thought that you needed to learn that too, and that school was a place for that. But then there's more and more and more and more and more, and it became harder and harder to do reading, writing, and arithmetic, and whatever that means.
And I'm sorry, don't forget about the boys stuff. We had shop.
Right, and
We had to
shop,
learn,
right.
you know, I had to learn how to do woodworking and then metalworking and then graphic design.
Yeah,
Oh, oh,
and then we all had to learn the equalness. So the boys switched and they did home ec, and then the girls had to learn all the woodworking and stuff. And not that there was anything wrong with any of that stuff. That's not what the conversation is about.
yeah,
It's
that's
about
not.
more.
It's about more. And as you started to share this, Kelly, something else came up in my mind that we hadn't talked about earlier, so forgive me. But if my history serves me right, I remember that even before all of the child labor laws that came through in the 30s and the 40s, I believe it was, a lot of the education of our youth and children were done at home.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
when the Industrial Revolution came along and really started to chug along, it's like, wait, we need adult hands here in our factories. What do we do with our kids?
Right.
So we established this schooling system, and and for whatever reasons, and I totally agree with you. It's just like we add on, and quite frankly, churches have been doing the same thing for so long. Churches have been doing, my history in the church that I grew up, and even in many of the churches of which I've been a part of, has been all about trying to, what do we need to do next? What do we need to do next? Oh, I see this. Let me go do that. I see this. Let me go do that. And we gotta do. We gotta make sure that we're feeding the hungry, that we're sitting with the sick, and we're grieving with the people who are mourning. And
Right.
and we gotta make sure.
Right. There's nothing wrong with all those things are wonderful things.
Yes.
But
But sometimes I think we forget, or that we do all of those things and then forget what is really what we're supposed to do.
mm-hmm.
And how do we get to that point again? And for me, I think church is at that point right now. And especially right now in this COVID pandemic, it's a time, honestly, for congregations as well as nonprofits and anybody who's part of any larger organization to kind of reimagine who they are and what is it that makes us who we are. I'm going to be a little bold here, and it's like, I think for church for too long, I think church has made its people understand a whole lot of knowledge about God and who God is. And we kind of put God like right here.
Yeah.
Almost on a pedestal type thing.
Yeah.
And we rarely, if ever, get to the point where we can talk about our own God experiences, our own holy experiences or sacred experiences. And if
Wait,
we,
don't those things happen at church?
not always.
Okay, we got to talk about that. Walk me through that.
And that's the thing that has happened, is I think that churches have taught, congregations have taught, that the only way that you can experience God is if you show up in this building, 4 walls, a steeple, a bell. And you come in, and this is where you're going to experience God. I want to shift that around for us.
Okay. What does that mean?
So when you ask someone, what do you know about God? Well, God is everywhere.
Right.
God is everywhere. I see God in nature. I see God in the beauty of. I see God in the niceness of. But if we say that God truly is everywhere, do we see God in the person who is struggling with life? Do we see God in the devastation that happens through floods and hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes? Do we see God in the person experiencing homelessness living out of their own car or on the sidewalk of the street? Do we see God in the person experiencing addiction?
So how do you? I don't know. How do you? I was raised in a church that said all those things. You experience God when you go on Sunday, and that's how you do it. So how do you experience God outside of the building?
I know it's tough.
Right? Are we doing it? We don't know it.
I think we're doing it and we don't know it, and I think that's one of the big. I think that's
put those parts together.
Right. That's one of the biggest things is,
okay.
And honestly, that's for me, I think that's one of the things that congregations need to be able to do, is to help people to make those connections, or what the other word that we like is relationships, to show that that experience that we've had is God-centered and God-filled. In other words, Kelly, so this conversation that you and I are having, although we are probably 75 miles apart in this particular time, this is a holy experience.
Why?
Because you and I have a relationship. You and I are here to do what we think is work, but we're also being our own individuals, and we're sharing love with other people that we have no idea who we are touching. No idea.
Right.
We have no idea who is going to see this, hear this, share it, whatever. That is holy. That's building community. And it's not about doing. It's not about doing. It was nothing for you and I to just sit in front of our computers this morning and turn them on and hit Zoom, and there's Kelly, there's Jim.
Right.
But we brought our whole selves to this. We brought our own uniqueness to this. You brought your own passion for what you do. I brought my own passion for what I do, but more importantly, you brought your passion for who you are. I brought my passion for who I am.
This connection creates it?
This connection creates it. And sometimes we try to create something that's never going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about that.
Sometimes we try to make things happen, and those are the things that rarely work.
Yeah, I think that I'll be totally honest. TV has made me think that a God moment has to be like,
Yes.
like thunder, lightning, all that stuff, like sort of that, like, give me a sign kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like if that's not happening, if I'm not, whatever, if there's not a lightning bolt coming from the sky, then I must not be experiencing God.
God is already in the smallest of little itty bitty things. God is in this cup of coffee that I'm having this morning.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
We think that we know God, but do we experience God? So something that I've been reading about over the last couple of years, to be honest, and it's sort of like a shift that for me that I'm hoping that I'm trying to help to transform people's lives this way, in that the church that I grew up in, and not congregation, but the church, the thinking of church was that to be a part of church, I needed to believe A, B, C, D.
Yes.
I need to believe in God. I need to believe in Jesus. I need to believe in the Holy Spirit. I need to believe in fill in the blank.
Right. Those are the rules.
And when I check off those boxes, man, I'm in, baby.
Right.
I am in.
Right.
Okay, now that I'm in, now you got to behave a certain way.
Yes.
Now you got to behave a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at somebody cross-eyed. Only talk to nice people.
Yep. There's rules about that too.
There's rules about that, how we engage with one another.
Yep.
And then when you do all of that, we'll make sure that you belong. We'll anoint you as one of God's followers from this particular place.
Right.
That has broken down. And that is being continually broken down. Because what happens to that person who experiences a tragedy in their church when someone is hurt or someone is talked about negatively? Well, I don't believe that they did that. So I'm going to behave differently. So therefore, I can't be a part of that church. So I'm going to go somewhere else. So what do we have? We have people leaving church. We have people that are part of a community.
Right.
It gave me hope and whatever, as long as I followed the rules and did everything that I was supposed to do.
Right. And it's not like there's not anything wrong with those things, because I can hear some people going, but there's nothing wrong with those things. It's
nothing
just
wrong with that.
There were times when it wasn't so flexible and it didn't allow for stuff
for difference,
right?
Or the actual difference that really is in among all of us.
Right.
You and I are not the same. I could look at another guy and he and I are not going to be the same.
Right.
You can look at another woman and you're not going to be the same.
Right. Thank goodness.
Different. So how I envision church growth and church becoming more available for everyone is that we shift that dynamic and make belonging first. You belong here because I care for you. You belong here because I think the world of you. And you know what? I know that you have done some very troubling things. I know that you have a troubled past.
Because everybody does.
I know that you feel you are unworthy to be in God's presence.
Right.
And the whole time God is saying, no, get here. You belong here. This is where you belong. I want you to be here. And oh, by the way, I will accompany you in whatever you need. I'm not going to do your work, but I will accompany you. I will abide with you.
Yeah, it's a shift.
It's a huge shift. So we belong together. We create together. When we do that, then we can maybe start believing what has brought us together. What's the beliefs that have brought us together? That there is a greater force, a greater spirit among us that can show us what it means to love. And even though we have difficulty doing it, this God, this Jesus person that we talk about, grabs us and holds us and embraces us amidst all of our pain, all of our sorrow, all of our difficulties, and still loves us and still cares for us.
But it has to start with the belonging.
Has to start with the belonging and then the believing. And oh, by the way, here's another point that I know I'm gonna, be accused of being too odd and too out there, is that maybe the way you get to God isn't through Jesus.
Uh-oh.
Maybe it's Buddha. Maybe it's nature. Who am I to say how you get to God, to understand the goodness that God offers for all of us? And can we live in that tension? Some can, some can't.
Yeah.
And then finally, now we go to the behavior part. When we know that we are in a community that love embraces us, abides with us, and holds with us, then I and we can go out into the world to share that same love. You and I can go out then and invite others in, because you know what? I've been on the margins.
Yeah.
I say that even from my own personal story, but not today.
Right.
But I've been on the margins. I've felt left out.
Yeah.
I've felt as though I don't belong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when we can get to that place, then we become a more hospitable place. We become a more welcoming environment.
And isn't it fascinating? It's about we. You said we about 10,000 times in that. There was never once about me. It's not about, it's about you, but it's about you as a we. And that's that whole, it's not just about you. It's about how we do it. We are together. We create the community. And then we behave this. Because when you think about doing too much, you're never doing anything well enough.
Exactly. And when
So
you
if
do
you concentrate on the essence.
and when you do too much, you become tired, you become weak. You really then become,
You're not effective.
you're not effective.
You can't thrive in anything because you're overwhelmed. So you have to boil it down. You have to get to what the essence of what this thing is. What is school? What is your organization? What is your family? What is church? What is all of that? And I think that everybody's like going,
Yeah. And it's a shift. And it's a shift that I'm trying to make the people that I encounter every day understand. It's
a
different.
pretty cool shift. It's pretty cool.
It's different, and in this smallish congregation that I'm working with, I'm discovering that there are really great people there. They really are a great bunch of people.
Yeah, they are.
And the reality is, quite frankly, Kelly, is they're tired because they've tried to do too much. And if I can help,
they're learning this we thing, and they like it. They love we.
They love we. And it's opening up their eyes to discover also that all of the things that church used to be for them or do for them and the world around us, that maybe we don't need to do all of it. Maybe we just need to accompany others with it. Maybe maybe we as this congregation can be part of we as another service organization in our community.
Yeah. I mean, we do
Or-
that too. I mean, the hub is designed to be we. And that's,
Yeah, the hub is what, 24-ish
yeah,
partners or whatever?
yeah, we are a we. But you're right, it's that, but it's also a shift, right? Because there's all these individual organizations, like individual people, and they all have their wants and desires, but when we come together to do something together, it's bigger than it could have been separately.
And it's so easy to say that, oh, they did that over there. I see them doing that. That's really cool.
Right.
But the transformation takes place when I can see that we make a difference. Where I am, who I'm with, the being creates what we do.
Yep.
We are people of love. We are people of caring and compassion. We are holy. We are sacred. You are holy. You are sacred. And don't forget it.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you, Pastor Jim, as always. It's always
Thank you,
fun
Kelly.
chatting with you. See you next week.
You bet.
Bye.
See you, friend.